I wasn't even looking. Good evening. Boy, oh boy, am I having fun with Facebook this evening. Every time, it seems like every time I come back on, something else has changed, and their system, just starting into this, has changed slightly. So I had a bit of a conversation with my phone, but thinking that it was Facebook, and that Facebook obviously can hear me. I'm sure I'm not the only one who talks to appliances when things don't quite go to plan. So, good evening, it's Jules Wyman here from juleswyman.com, and I am aware that it can take a while for Facebook to let you know that I am live. So I'm just checking on there that it is live, and I can switch that off, and then I don't have to worry about that. So how are you this evening? How is life going in your world? As you join this evening for the Confidence Conversation, please do drop down and say hi. It's lovely to know who's here and give you a little shout out and a hi. Even if you choose not to interact for the rest of the session, it's really nice to know who's here, just so I can give you a wave and a shout out and find out where you are in the world, because quite often we've got people all around the globe tuning in and watching these sessions, so it is always nice. I like to say hello. It's for me. It's pandering to me and my desires to just say hello and check in with you all. So how are you this evening? How has your day been? Maybe it's just starting, depending on where you are in the world. Maybe it's coming to a close. Maybe you're already advancing into Tuesday. Who knows, with wherever you are. It's been, hi Gareth. It's been a fascinating day for me, because it's been back to back with getting things done and coaching sessions. And it was fascinating that this topic, even though I'd set everything up, all the emails to go out a few days back, it's interesting how this topic has come up in pretty much every conversation that I've had today. And it's what I find fascinating with the am I enough, do I feel like I'm enough, am I good enough, etc., is how prevalent that belief is, and that core belief resonates for so many people in different ways. They may slightly dialogue it in a different way. Hi Sheila. But it's something that comes up over and over again, regardless of gender, regardless of status within organizations, financial situations, relationships, etc., etc., etc. It's something that is so prevalent. So do say hi, as Gareth and Sheila have done, as the conversation is going on, and also, as I can't quite see who it was that is doing the thumbs up, let me know, use the likes or the hearts, that as we go through this topic this evening, when things make sense or they resonate with you, then give me a thumbs up. Let me know that makes sense, or it's resonating with you. Equally, if something doesn't resonate with you, if it's not connecting, or it just doesn't make sense, then let me know, not by doing a sad face or an angry face, because hi Christopher, it's hard for me because of the time frame. Hi Laura, it's hard for me to work back as to what actual thing that you weren't getting. So put me a quick message. Just put. Can you explain such and such a bit more? Because when I'm in a room with people, live people, I know you're live, but when I can interact one-to-one, that's something that I find of great value, is getting the clarification that it is not because I'm right, not by any stretch of the imagination, but that it's resonating, because very often I might be able to describe something in a slightly different way that resonates well with one person and not with another. So if I can change the description to help you get further clarification, then I will do. But because we're not in the same room, or at least I don't think we are, I can't do that without you reaching out and letting me know. So please know that you have the permission to do that. If you need to know that you have the permission, there is your permission. You also have my permission to join in the conversation. Please don't wait to be invited. If an idea pops or a question pops and you just want to type away, then please do. Please don't wait to be invited. You're more than welcome to. This is a conversation. That's what I enjoy, is that having these conversations. So please feel free to interact as much as you want to, and also challenge yourself a little bit to maybe interact a little bit more than you would do usually. And that could mean sharing this information with somebody as you're listening to it. You might think, so-and-so would really benefit from this. So invite them. You can either tag them like you would do in any Facebook post, or you can share this to your page. Oh my gosh, this is so amazing, everyone should be watching this, or whatever it may be. So feel free to do that as well. Share away to your heart's content. So let me just double check that I've done all the housekeeping as things pop up on my screen. That's always an interesting one. So the words that I've used to describe this session are literally the person who messaged me. This was after we did our open forum a few weeks back, where I was inviting even more topics, and you're more than welcome to still do that now. Message me either on here, or you can email me, jules@juleswyman.com. And this particular person did exactly that, and there were two main things that she wanted me to talk about, so I've scheduled them at the appropriate times to be able to look at, and these are exactly her words. And what I thought was really useful with this is that these aren't uncommon. These are, as I was saying right at the beginning, so common. She said that she doesn't feel like that she's good enough, that she never feels like she works hard enough, or that her work is good enough, even though she's never had that feedback. And what I find fascinating is how many of the beliefs, how many of the thoughts that we have could be related to the enough dialogue, or it could be related to something else. When I question clients or delegates in a workshop, have you ever actually had that feedback? So often they either have never had that feedback, or they may have had it once from somebody about 20 years ago, when obviously they were a different person and in different situations to the ones that they are now. And quite often we end up holding on to these thoughts or beliefs that are outdated. They're not valid anymore. They're not that they were necessarily valid in the first place, but they're even less of valid right now. They're out of date. They're misunderstandings that we don't need anymore. So how this was being related was that she referred to it as the imposter syndrome. And I've heard solicitors in law firms say this. I've heard medical practitioners say this. I've heard senior managers, CEOs, teachers, the list goes on, that they worry that they're going to get found out. They're worried that they're going to get caught, or they feel like they're constantly pretending, and therefore they are this imposter in this other world, whatever that other world may be. And the majority of the time, the conversation around the imposter syndrome does relate more to work than it does to anything else. Now, it's a huge topic, really big topic. So I'm aware that the conversation this evening, I want to plant seeds. That's my intention for you, is to plant seeds for you to start thinking about things. And obviously, if you want to take this further and have further conversations, either with me or with somebody else around that, then hopefully this will give you a grounding as to where to start that conversation. At least that's my intention. So the imposter syndrome, unfortunately, there is a phraseology that you may or may not have heard, which is about fake it till you make it. So, just act as if you can do it, act as if you're confident, or act as if you are the lawyer, or act as if you can do it, and fake it till you make it. And that methodology is a great methodology to start off with if you're really challenged and you want to take yourself outside that comfort zone, but you don't know how to, and you don't necessarily feel that you've got the qualities or the skills or the abilities yet. So being able to fake it or pretend or act as if can be a great way to start. The challenge with that is that then we build up this persona, we build up this character because we're pretending, we're faking it. So we make this character up. and we are filling that character's boots as we go and do whatever it is that we're pretending that we can do or feel comfortable with or confident with. Whilst that's great to help take us out of our comfort zone and do something different, the challenge that we have with that is that when we create this character, any positive feedback goes to the character, because we know in here that it wasn't us. We're just pretending. So we see it with that other person. There's lots of thumbs going across. So I'm guessing this is making sense and resonates with somebody at least. So any positive feedback goes to the character, and internally we're like, well, it wasn't me. It was the character. I didn't do it. It was the character. But the moment we get what we would then describe as negative feedback, we take that on board and blame ourselves, because we go, yep, that's because I'm faking it. That's because I'm pretending. And then this imposter syndrome starts to build, because we then think we have to be enough. We have to match in with other people. And then with that, we're then comparing ourselves to somebody else. We're making judgments and assumptions about other people and how we should be and how we should fit into this mold. And this character keeps building and building and building. And the further, especially the further up the hierarchical ladder, if you want to look at it in that terms, that we go within the working environment, the kind of I'm going to get caught out at some point, the more that escalates for us, and therefore the more defensive we can become, or the more, that's why we think we have to work harder or have to do more or double check our work or get our work validated or get that feedback. Is this making sense? Let me know if it's making sense with you. So, as I say, it's a big topic, and it is one that covers so many industries, so many people, and it's a theme that we can come back to over and over again in a variety of different ways. It's resonating with a lot of people. There's a lot of thumbs going across, so that's good. And obviously, it's about finding that balance. It's about, to me, that's what took me into challenging the perception around the fake it till you make it and confidence, because I was faking it. I just never felt like I was making it, because it always seemed like I had to keep pretending, and this character had to go on, and I couldn't keep doing that, because then I was knackered, quite frankly, and I would get feedback from workshops or talks or from clients, and I would be all smiles and, oh yeah, that's great, and then I'd be like, yeah, but where's the one that's telling me how bad I am? I'd actively be looking for it, and all my attention would be channeled into that, because I knew that I was still faking it. It was like, well, when's this make it bit going to happen? And if we're not associating with that character in any way, shape or form, then that's going to continue, that is going to perpetuate. So one of the first things that I want to offer you to start doing, and this isn't actually a very easy thing to do, it's so helpful and can make a big difference for something that can seem so small, and it is something I've spoken about before. And it's talking about things in first person, because so often we don't excuse me, we talk about it in the third person. Well, you know what it's like when you've been in a meeting and you want to speak out and you don't, so you come away and you feel like you're an idiot for not saying the thing that you really wanted to say. All of that is spoken about in third person, and because we then continue to speak in third person, we're still associating to that imagined character. It's not us. It's not us that has the challenge, or that wants to be stretched, or wants to feel good enough, or whatever it may be. It's all going to this character, and the brain's not associating it. It's not making that connection between those two things. So it's talking about this third person. I don't have to do anything, because it's all the character. The character needs to change. The character needs to do things differently. It's not about me. Make sense? I realised I just did that at exactly the point, and it looked like I had a green nail coming out of my thumb then, because of the candle. So one of the things that we need to be very mindful of is our language. And if any of my clients are on here, they'll be like rolling their eyes going, yeah, she's bangs on about this all the time. It's so important to us because we can spend time learning communication skills with other people, verbally or copywriting or that kind of thing. But we have to learn how to communicate to ourselves, and because our brain is taking things literally, so we need to understand that. And the biggest offering that I can give you with language that has made a significant, it's not easy, difference for myself is putting things in first person. I'm the one that has the challenge when I go into a meeting and I don't speak out, or I want to know that my work is good enough. You know what it's like? Change those yous, that third person, into first person. Hi, Caroline. Lovely to have you here this evening. So make sure that you do that. Give yourself the space to do that. Now, if you happen to be on these calls with a work colleague or a family member, then ask them to help you with that. Buddy up together so that you can support each other, because this is not an easy one to catch out, because we go onto automatic pilot with our language and we don't think about what we're saying. It just trundles out, and we then very rarely actually hear what we're saying. The amount of times I will reflect back to clients, can I just repeat back to you what you said? I didn't say that. Yeah, you did, but we're not listening to ourselves. So sometimes it's useful to have a buddy where this is concerned. And if you aren't sharing this call with somebody else that you know, then why not? Get them on board so that you can share this and work together. And you can watch it with the replay, or even just tell somebody about it. And so ask them, could they be your buddy, and can you look out for it for each other so that you can help each other with this? Because as I say, it is a challenge to pick yourself up on this. So that's my first thing. The second thing that I would invite you to, oh, and by the way, if you've got any questions about that, then please do chuck them in the comments thing. I nearly said the question box, and it's not the question box. So the second thing that I would like us to remind about, and I know I've shared this story before, and I wish I could find the radio clip, but I haven't yet been able to do that. But Meryl Streep was interviewed, I think it was last year or the year before. She had a new movie coming out, another one that she was singing in. She was walking down the red carpet, and the interviewer said to her, "Oh, are you going to sing for us this evening?" And immediately she, no, not at all. No, it's not me that sings, it's the character. I can't sing. Now, immediately to me, I nearly crashed my car, because to me, I just screamed out, that's the imposter syndrome there straight away. There's that beautiful illustration of when you do something as a character, all of the praise and the recognition goes to the character. But what Ms. Streep hadn't really spoken about in that moment was that whilst it was the character is singing, it's the character's having to use her vocal cords, her talents, her skills, her abilities, her vocal range, whatever it is, to be able to do that. And the reason that's important for us to remember is that quite often we assume that, well, if I stop pretending and I start being me, then all the skills that I've been pretending that I can have as this character, or pretending I can do as this character, we assume are going to disappear. But that's not the case. If I've learnt to do them, even though I was faking, pretending, bluffing it, making it up, winging it, whatever the right phrase is for you, is even if I was doing those things, I still have to be doing those things. Does that make sense? So therefore, this is about you recognising that even if you have been faking it all these years at work and pretending that you love doing the presentations or holding the meetings or creating that report or doing that spreadsheet, that even when you for yourself recognise that you don't, and it's not something that you enjoy, you still have that skill. You still have the ability to be able to do that. Does that make sense? Let me know if it's making sense. Because so often we have this fear that by stopping the pretending that I'm going to lose everything. And it's just not true. So they're the first two things. Put everything in first person, and remembering that whatever it is that you've been pretending, you can still do it. You haven't lost that skill or that ability. And of course, again, if you've got any questions about any of that, then chuck it down in the comments box. And it's interesting, that little moment there where in my mind, I went a little bit blank, is because this is such a big topic. And as I was describing that, then these other thoughts, I need to make sure I share that, and I need to make sure I share that. They just come crashing in, because there's so many different parts with this. And I'm actually going to change the third one, because there is one that is screaming in my head. Let me just write this so I know what I'm going to do. That seems to be far more pertinent and useful at this moment in time. Because if we use the measurement, and if we use the phraseology of not enough, I'm not enough, I'm not working hard enough, I don't feel good enough, my work isn't good enough. It's an obvious coaching kind of question to ask, but in comparison to what? Or in comparison to who? Because as this person who asked for this topic to be spoken about and shared what was going on for them at that moment in time, is she said that she's never, even though she's had those thoughts of I'm not good enough, my work's not good enough, I'm not working hard enough, she has never had that feedback. And in fact, I have had a client today where they were talking about a particular thing, and I said, well, have you ever had that feedback? Well, no, but I might do. But you've never had that feedback in the 30, 40 odd years that you've been working. You have never had that feedback. So why are you creating these whole defense mechanisms just in case? And if you're somebody who knows that not enoughness is a thought, however it pops up for you, if you know that that's a truth, if you know that that's a thought that pops up often even, ask yourself, well, who or what am I comparing myself to? Now, this is something that I can relate to myself, because I know that if I wanted to buy into it, my brain, my thoughts could go into, I'm not working hard enough, I should be working more, etc., etc. And I notice that whenever I do hear that, is that I will say, well, in comparison to what or to who? And also I would suggest as to, well, by whose rules? Whose rules am I following? Because if Charlie, whoever Charlie is working 16-hour days, and if I'm comparing, and I'm doing 8-hour days, and I'm comparing myself to Charlie, then of course I'm not working enough. But what if Charlie's looking at me saying, I wish I could be working 8-hour days? 8-hour days. It's about being very careful. Who and what and where are we comparing ourselves to? And is it favourably to us? Does it help us? Does this make sense? What are your thoughts? What is this conversation sparking for you? Do you have any other questions? Do you have a takeaway at the moment? Have you had I nearly said a lightning strike then, a light bulb moment of realization? What is it for you that you've gained from this conversation so far? If in all honesty, whether you're watching this live right now or whether you are watching the recording, and please do interact whether you're watching it live or watching the recording, because I even if it's the recording, I do come back and answer questions and thoughts and comments, is that I would just wonder what would happen if you gave yourself a break, if you were actually kind to yourself and considerate to yourself, as opposed to buying into that I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, and I need to be doing more. The challenge that we have, all of us as human beings, is our thinking brain craves more. It's addicted to more, whatever it describes as more. And it's always saying that it wants more. And the reason it's doing that is because its perception is that what it is, or what it perceives it is less. So therefore, to get away from that belief of less, it has to go for more. It wants to crave for more. So the amount of people, and you will have seen this even if it's only in the papers, the amount of people that they could be millionaires, multi-millionaires, have all the fame and the glory and the houses and the cars, etc., the bodies, whatever it may be, the bank accounts, in a way that a lot of people will go, oh, they've got everything, and yet they will get addicted to drugs, or they might take their own life, or so surely that must teach you that even with all of that stuff, and there was I can't remember his name, but he was the guy who directed Ace Ventura, and he has, I can't remember the name of the movie, he has done a movie, a documentary this year all about this, because he said, you know, he had all this money, he had all this fame, all this glory, and he stood in this brand new mansion that he's bought, and he's never felt so alone and so inadequate and didn't know what to do. And he's now gone to the other end of the extreme. And I think he might even be living in a trailer and just enjoying life in a very different way. So let me know if that's making sense, or what it is that you would like to know more of. Sheila asks, how do you be kind to yourself? It breaks my heart when somebody asks that question, and it's unfortunately a far too frequent question. How do you not be kind to yourself? How are you being unkind to yourself? Is my usual answer, because I think it's important for us to be aware of just how unkind we are being to ourselves. And that is usually that internal dialogue of just how unkind we're being. And very often, people will also do it outside. I know that as I've said many a time, my mantra used to be, I'm a fat, ugly, stupid, useless cow. But that was an internal dialogue. What was going on outside is that the moment somebody would say something, I would put myself down. But, well, I've got to do it before anybody else does. Nobody had done it. Nobody had done it. Jim Carrey's the actor. He's not the director. Caroline, it was the director of Ace Ventura. But yeah, you're right. Jim Carrey was in it. So how are you being unkind? How does that show up? How are you treating yourself? Listen for those, and very gently ask yourself, okay, so what would be the opposite of that? What would be the opposite of that thought? And if you were speaking to somebody else, how would you be speaking to them? Because my assumption is that you wouldn't speak to somebody else probably the way that you speak to yourself. And we assume we know how to be kind to somebody else. So how would we be kind to ourselves? Does that give you a starter, Sheila, at least? Let me know. Christopher says, maybe it's always the what ifs that stop us, which is so negative, really. So, Christopher, one of the games that I offer, I'm assuming that they're from you, Sheila, I can't see. One of the things that I offer is when you hear a what if that goes into that negative, because you're right, they tend to default towards what we'd label as negative, is actually stop and go, okay, well, I can't have one without the other. I can't have up without down. I can't have left without right. I can't have on without off. So I have to have both of those. So if my brain is going to go, well, what if it goes wrong? What if I'm not enough? Well, what if I am enough? Well, what if I haven't worked hard enough? Well, what if I have worked hard enough? It's a story that I tell often of two amazing ladies, so talented, in an organisation. I was brought in to coach them and their manager, because the organisation was in a quite significant transition, and the two ladies that I was coaching were going to be moving up into a new position. And they wanted some coaching around that, specifically around confidence and ability to be able to do the job. And one of the very first conversations that all three of us had was around this report that they'd completed. Now, their boss and the board member, I think it was the chair of the board, had said they'd gone above and beyond, they'd given way more than was required, and the report was amazing. Thank you. And yet both of these ladies were still saying, we could have done more, we should have done this, we should have done that, and this just went on. And I kept going, but hang on a second, your bosses are saying you have done too much, and yet you're saying, yeah, no, but we could have done more. So basically you're calling them liars. and you're disbelieving them over your own beliefs. And this is where so often we need to look at both sides of that coin rather than let that what if run down that negative route. We need to go, okay, well, I hear that negative. Well, what if it goes wrong? Well, what if it goes right? Well, what if I'm not good enough? What if I am good enough? What if they don't like what I've done? Well, what if they do like what I've done? And so on and so forth. So that would be my invitation, Christopher, that when and if you notice that popping up, is listen to it and listen for the opposite. So, believe it or not, it is already 7:31. How did that happen? 7:31 here in the UK anyway. I'm not sure where you are in the world. I know that Sheila's definitely not in the UK. Well, I don't know for definite. I'm assuming that Sheila's not in the UK. So, as I said at the beginning, I know that the imposter syndrome and the beliefs around not enough it's a big topic, and to be able to cover that in half an hour is extremely ambitious, but I wanted to at least make sure that you had some tools. So the first thing is to put things in first person, talk about I as opposed to you, so that you can learn to take ownership rather than it all being associated to that bizarre character. The second thing is to remember that even if you have done the skills, the abilities, whatever it is, when you've been faking or pretending or acting or bluffing or winging it, if you've been able to do it at that point, then you still have that skill. So even when it's you that's coming to the fore, it doesn't mean that skill's not going to be there. You don't have to always be that character at all. You are being that character, so therefore you have the ability to do those skills. Excuse me. The third thing rather, is to always look at whenever you hear the not enough popping up, is to ask yourself something along the lines of, well, in comparison to what? Well, I haven't done enough. Well, in comparison to what? What are the rules that I'm following here? And are they my rules? And be like these particular ladies that I was saying, is that be aware of, if the feedback that you're getting is, that was great, thanks very much. Be aware of those thoughts that crush you. Oh, yeah, I know, but I could have done more. Because if the feedback is that is enough, then take it. Hear it and go, that is enough. I didn't need to do more. So I'm hoping that this has given you at least 3 starting points of where you can look at where this topic is concerned. I do that with anxiety, what if all the time. Brilliant. And I'm hoping it's working for you, Caroline. I'm assuming the fact that you're using it a lot, it is. So this conversation could well have triggered more thoughts, more questions. If it has, then please do either put them below or message me direct on here, or you can email me, jules@juleswyman.com, and ask your questions, share your topics, ask for other topics for the confidence conversation, because as I said before, and probably will say again, is these are about planting seeds for you, helping you to be able to look at things in a slightly different way. And even if you take one tool like the what if game that Caroline's saying, and it's starting to make a difference for you, then that's fantastic. That's the purpose and the intent behind it all. So message me if you've got any questions. If you don't want to put them down there, you can do it on here, or jules@juleswyman.com. And I haven't got my laptop open, so I can't give you a heads up as to what next week's topic is. But if you want a heads up and you're not on the mailing list, you can go to my website, juleswyman.com, and you'll see on there is a thing for, there's a sign-up sheet for the 7 keys of confidence. You can tell my brain's going towards the end of the day. You sign up, not only will you get the 7 keys of confidence for free, but that would also mean that you'll be placed on the mailing list, so you'll get a heads up as to what each week's topic is as it's coming up. So I'm hoping that you have found this of value this evening. There's been a great deal of people popping in and out. Please remember that you can share this video, whether that's on your page or on your website, whatever it may be. And I'm trusting that the information that I've shared has given you some food for thought to be able to get yourself moving from wherever you are, where that not enough belief and thought is coming from. You're welcome, Christopher. Thank you for joining, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care. Bye now.